In my hand, I have the Canon EOS R, their new mirrorless camera, because Canon and Nikon have finally figured out that mirrorless cameras are not going away, and if they want to compete with the likes of Sony and the Panasonic Lumix, they're going to need to offer a camera. First thing right away off the bat, obviously, is the size. If you compare it to the 5D, quite a bit of a difference. In regards to dimensions, the EOS R is 135.8 by 98.3 by 84.4 millimeters versus the 5D, which is 150 by 116 by 75. Basically a little bit narrower, a little bit wider. Weight, however, it is 580 grams versus 800 grams. So that's one of the differences there between the two. If you're like me and you've been a long-time Canon shooter, you're going to have a lot of lenses and other Canon kit. One nice thing about this is the battery is actually the same battery as the 5D. The reason why that's important is if you were thinking about switching to the Sony system, which I was, that the Sonys are notorious for going through batteries like that, so you'd have to buy extra batteries. You will need also a lens adapter. The R uses the RF mount instead of the EF mount. So you will need a lens adapter. And this is because, of course, since it doesn't have that mirror that flips up, it doesn't need the extra space. With the adapter, you're going to add about that much space. So what I've done here is I've added my 50mm lens to give you an idea. So not bad. I did notice when we were out shooting with it earlier, or one of the people that I was shooting with, she commented we were using the 24-70 lens, and with the lens being so much heavier, the weight isn't what you're used to, where the camera itself is actually balancing a lot of the weight off. They do have lenses that they are releasing for this particular camera, but once again, I'm a longtime Canon shooter, so it's nice that I can use this. And since this is made by Canon, it's been tested with their lenses. Switching to one of the other brands, you could still get adapters. They're third-party adapters, but, you know, will it work with all the lenses? One really nice thing about this is the articulating screen. Canon, on the 5D Mark IV, still has not added this feature. I don't know why. Using the camera, it's pretty easy. On the upper left, it's got a on-off switch, which seems kind of, to be honest, a bit of a waste of space to me. If you notice on the 5D, the upper left has a dial, so you can actually quickly switch different shooting modes, which is a nice feature in my opinion. It did take us a little while to figure out how to use some of the settings on it. That, I assume, would just come with time. After a while of using any new system, you're going to learn how to navigate the menus and switch the cameras around. But beyond that, it actually feels pretty solid. It's got a nice feel to it. Mode on top, if you want to switch back and forth between your shooting modes, video, photography, versus the dial on the left via the 5Ds. Screen is really quite nice, easy to read. Menus not too different from Canon's other cameras. They did change a few things because they do in pretty much every time they come out with something new, but it's not that different and not that difficult. Movie mode does 4K video, but here's a catch with the 4K video. It crops it. So you're not getting the full framed censored 4K video. That is a negative. That's the same on the 5D, by the way. Other cameras, however, you do get the full framed 4K video. In 4K, you can shoot up to 29 frames per second. You can't do any higher than that. If you want to shoot a higher frame rate, such as 100 frames per second, you have to do that in HD 1280 by 720, which is kind of annoying that you have to do 1280 by 720. You can't do 1280 by 1080, which would be nice in order to shoot 100 frames per second if you want to do some slow motion stuff. Once again, that's the same as the 5D. It does have a built-in slow motion feature, which is kind of nice. I don't see myself using that too much. I'd rather actually just shoot it at a quicker frame rate and then convert it to slow motion in post, but that's just me. Some other things that we noticed about the camera: you can do different modes, monochrome, if you want to do black and white, sepia, all that kind of stuff in camera. It is kind of nice. They did a better job of breaking it down between your video functions and your photography functions, depending on what you want to do. You hit the mode button on the top of the camera, switch from photography to video, and then you're setting all the functions within that. The focus tracking, this is what we really liked. So with this camera, you can focus in on a person's face, for example, and move around with them, following them as you walk or as they walk, and the camera does stay within focus. This is also great if you are a vlogger, and the reason being is, as a vlogger, you can flip your camera screen around, you can actually see yourself in the screen and follow yourself with it, and it's going to do a really good job of keeping you within focus. The Sony actually doesn't come all the way around. It rotates up and down, but it doesn't come all the way around. The Panasonic Lumix does come all the way around, and the 5D Mark IV does not have a screen that comes out. A couple other things I've noticed: people online have complained about the fact that you only have one memory card slot. That doesn't bother me, as I would be coming from a 5D Mark II, which also only has one memory card slot, but it uses the larger compact flashes. I would say to the people that are like, oh, this is a good backup, if a camera card flash fails, what happens? Buy like a good quality card, use it, and pay attention to what you're doing. And also try flopping out cards every once in a while, so that way you don't have the same card in there for 3 years. The card that they gave us with this loaner camera is a slow card, and so we weren't able to do 4K video with it because we weren't able to the card wasn't fast enough to record 4K video. So we didn't actually get to test out the 4K video function. Stabilization feature, you do notice that it crops it when you switch to different stabilization functions. Works very similar to the warp stabilizer in Premiere Pro. When you're stabilizing, it crops it. It crops the edges out of that screen. Oh yeah, so another nice little feature that we found on it, of course, is when you're reviewing pictures on the camera, you can zoom in and zoom out. They didn't give us with it, but they actually offer, with your adapter, you can get a different one that actually has a filter slide built into it, so you can actually put your filters back behind the lens instead of in front of the lens. For photography, if you want flash, you are going to need a separate flash that's the same as the 5D Mark IV. So in-camera sound, pretty much the same. It's got a little microphone built into it, speakers built into it, too. You can play it back. I would not recommend using that for anything serious. When we were outside with it, it picked up all the wind and the background noise and that type of stuff. So I don't know if I fully agree with how they laid everything out, but with anything, I think it's once you learn it. It does have a nice feature, though, that we liked, is you can adjust the sound while video is recording. So if you are using an external mic and you notice that it's either too high or too low, while the video is recording, you can actually adjust that on the camera, on the screen, at the time of the recording, which was a really nice feature that we found. Programmable, it has this little slide thing here on the back that allows you to program different functions into it. Similarities to the 5D Mark IV, battery, great, lenses that you can use with the adapter. Most of the menu layout and settings are similar, so if you have been using the Mark IV or one of the earlier 5Ds, or even some of the other cameras, it's not going to be too much of a transition for you, although it is still going to be some. Both myself and Ren are Canon shooters, and we still had a little bit of a hard time finding the functionality. Connor, who was with us as well, he had a much harder time because he is a Lumix shooter. Viewfinder we really liked. Out of the 4 cameras out now, the Sony, the A7S, I think they're on their 3rd version now, the Lumix GH5, and the Nikon, I can't even think of what it's actually called. The Canon is actually the most expensive out of the 4 of those, retailing for around $2,200, depending on where you buy it from, if you get the lens adapter or any other kit with it. But that's roughly the price for it, $22 to $24. And in comparison to the other models, it is the most expensive one out of the bunch. So really, when it comes down to this camera, is Do you want to switch to a mirrorless camera from a different manufacturer, such as Sony or the Lumix or now Nikon? Or for me, what it comes down to is I've had 5D Mark II for quite a long time and I need to upgrade. It's getting dated. It's a great camera. I've shot millions of hours of video on it, thousands, hundreds of thousands of photos on it, but it's dated. It's time to upgrade. So do I want to upgrade to a Sony, which is what I've been leaning towards, or do I want to upgrade to the Canon 5D Mark IV? Hope you found that useful. As always, be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see a few more. Anytime we get our hands on something, we try to do some type of a review of it, even if it's like this where we only get to play with it a few hours and let you know what we thought of it. And of course, whether it's loaned equipment, borrowed equipment, or hopefully someday paid reviews, they will always be honest reviews. We don't let how we got the equipment influence our review of the equipment.